Thanks for checking out this video. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button. Feel free to cyberbully us in the comments. We can take it. We're big boys.
Please, we're so desperate.
Go easy on us.
Welcome to A Tribe Called Fantasy with your hosts, Greg and Justin.
Check the description for players that just didn't make the list this week, and leave us a comment if we forgot anyone on the list. All right, before we go into the running back rankings, this first handful, probably the first 10, this is really just grasping at straws on some of these players. We struggled making this ranking.
Yeah, welcome to the trenches, boys.
Welcome to the trenches. At number 40, barely making the cut, is Devonta Freeman. Finally finding a team that wants him, and they barely wanted him. They only wanted him because they didn't have anyone else.
That is all inaccurate, but I'll let it slide. He had 4 teams looking for him or looking at him. He waited into the season to pick a team to see what team he would have the best role for. I think he even took less money to come here, but week 3 was not a great one, but to be expected. I think he had 4 or 5 days of preparation, so expect a little bit more out of Devonta Freeman, but the offense is still going to be limited, so you're not looking to start him here. You're definitely looking to stash him.
Yeah, no doubt about that. This is maybe a player that you're taking if your whole team is hurt. Let's say you have Christian McCaffrey, Michael Thomas, Chris Carson, you just got obliterated with injuries. I don't even know in that scenario you would be playing Devonta Freeman. Hopefully you can find players elsewhere, but he made the 40 list because there are a lot worse running backs. That is for sure.
That there are.
At 39, we have Kalen Ballage. His main reason for holding any sense of value is his use in the passing game. Last week he had 5 receptions for 44 yards.
They're playing the Broncos this week, so that's going to be the worst game of the year probably. And for some reason, Adam Gase loves this guy. And Adam Gase probably won't have a job after this week. So this might be your 1 week to start him in a deep flex league. I'm talking 16-man, 14-man. If you have to start him in a 12-man, I pray for you and your team.
At number 38, we have J.K. Dobbins. This Ravens backfield has just had red stop signs all over it. He only had 1 carry in the Monday Night Football game against the Kansas City Chiefs for 6 yards. He did have 4 receptions. I don't think we're going to see J.K. Dobbins significantly used in the passing game. But
I think that's his only role at this point.
Bummer. I don't know, man. They're playing the Washington football team. Their defense has been surprisingly decent.
Surprisingly.
I think Lamar Jackson is going to carve them up. I would stay away from J.K. Dobbins unless you have no other options.
Yeah, if you're looking for a positive spin, he does lead the running backs in snap count, or he did at least this week with 43%. And if you're in a PPR league, that's your only hope.
At number 37, we have Antonio Gibson. Week 3, he had 9 carries for 49 yards and a touchdown, 3 receptions for 11 yards. He seemed to be pretty productive with the handful of opportunities he's had. He's found the end zone. They are playing the Ravens this week, so it is not a desirable matchup. I would try and stay away from him if you can because he is not getting a significant workload, and that Ravens defense is tough.
Very tough. He's finally finding a footing. I do think this is going to be a wait till week 5, week 6. Maybe he gets the full brunt of the work.
I agree. I think this is a player that you avoid playing this week, but keep him on your bench. At 36, we have Nyheim Hines. Week 3 had 7 carries for 21 yards, 4 receptions for 40 yards. They're taking on the Chicago Bears. I don't know. Nyheim Hines started out really hot. A lot of people were really excited about him. You yourself proclaimed him as the Austin Ekeler 2.0. Do you want to go back on that claim?
I didn't think I'd be called out so quickly for this. I still have faith in Nyheim Hines. I think his outlook is better in these upcoming weeks than it was in week 2. I don't think he'll ever repeat week 1. You're definitely praying for a touchdown. But I think he does have usage in the passing game. And if you have to start him, like all these other running backs, good luck.
I almost traded Nyheim Hines for Terry McLaurin, but my trade partner couldn't get it done. Didn't want to do it. Almost flipped Nyheim Hines for Terry McLaurin. That one's going to sting the rest of the season.
Probably stings now.
It stings now a lot. I wanted to trade him. You were adamantly against me trading him.
You can't win them all.
Glad to get the L on Mike. At 35, we have Leonard Fournette. Just a confusing player. I mean, this is not a backfield you want to be a part of. Week 3 had only 7 carries for 15 yards, 2 receptions for 7 yards. They're taking on the Chargers. I don't even know what to make of this backfield. Where do you stand on this backfield?
This is a wait and see for me. If you have to start him, I would suggest trying to scour the waivers for someone who just has more opportunity. But if you're forced to start him, don't look for a great week this week. The Chargers front, pretty solid, and Ronald Jones, you never know when he's just going to get every single bit of the carries.
At 34, we have Rex Burkhead. I would take great caution in starting Rex Burkhead. In week 3, he had a monstrous game with 6 carries for 49 yards and 2 touchdowns, 7 receptions for 49 yards and a touchdown. They are playing the Kansas City Chiefs, so it would appear that there would be the opportunity for Rex Burkhead to have a role in the passing game in this. And James White is likely not to play, right?
It's still out in the open.
A bit up in the air.
Yeah, so if he does play, Rex Burkhead's going to take a dive. But you can look for at least some PPR work. But, yeah, definitely don't expect another 3-touchdown game. If you're coming off that riding high, you just went and scooped him on the waivers, and you want to hear us singing praises, you picked the wrong place.
Yeah, I mean, he did this last year too and then disappeared the rest of the season. I'm not quite at this level, but this Patriots backfield it's a committee. It's not like there's going to be a featured back week in and week out.
Yeah, and the Raiders look terrible.
Yeah, the Raiders are just going to give it up on defense all day. At 33 this week, we have Carlos Hyde, who should be benefiting from Chris Carson being out with an injury. Hopefully he'll step up into that lead back role against the Dolphins, who are a team that you want to play your running back against.
Yeah, I think he actually played the same amount of snaps as Travis Homer, but we went with Carlos Hyde strictly because he's produced before. You know what you're getting with Carlos Hyde, another ageless wonder. You're not feeling great about it, but you could take a big risk here and it might pay off. He might end up getting 15, 16 carries, couple of touchdowns. You really never know.
At 32, we have Sony Michel, who looked really good running the ball against the Raiders. Could that be Sony Michel looking good, or could it be the Raiders looking bad? To be determined. He had 9 carries for 117 yards with 2 receptions. The Chiefs looked really good at stopping the run against the Ravens this past matchup, but I think, you definitely take playing Sony with a bit of caution.
I completely agree. He did out carry Rex Burkhead and still saw some work in the passing game. It's a committee though at the end of the day, but if he can keep looking as good as he did against the Raiders and just bust a couple more runs, he might end up seeing an opportunity to be a little bit of that starting running back that he used to be.
I would agree. I think out of the Patriots running backs, he is the one that you want to have, despite Rex Burkhead's monstrous game.
Yeah, especially season long, I would say.
Yeah.
Other than James White.
Yeah, I would agree, especially for PPR. We should specify James White in PPR. At 31, we have Frank Gore.
The ageless wonder.
The ageless wonder. Do you have anything good you want to say about Frank Gore? Silence, crickets. Nothing really good to be said about Frank Gore. He's getting the carries, but he ain't doing shit with it. They're playing the Broncos. I don't know. This Jets team, just stay away from everyone. I mean, at best, you're playing Frank Gore just because of the amount of carries he's getting.
Absolutely. That's the only reason you can't fathom having to play Frank Gore any other time except this upcoming week, and that's only because it's against the poor Broncos team.
I mean, you're really just praying for a touchdown. That's the best you got is just hands and knees, fingers crossed, praying for a touchdown.
Yeah, Adam Gase is playing for his job, so maybe the team will deliver.
At number 30, we have Ronald Jones, another member of this Tampa Bay Buccaneers backfield that is just very suspect. He had a decent amount of carries last week. They're taking on the Chargers. Do you think that matchup adds value to Ronald Jones? Do you think he's worth starting? I mean, how do you feel about Ronald Jones?
I think the Chargers matchup actually decreases his outlook. Week 1 and week 2, he looks like the lead back. Week week 1 and week 3, he looks like the lead back. Week 2, Leonard Fournette all of a sudden appears, looks like he's going to take over the role, doesn't. So I think we can expect Ronald Jones to be in the offense heavily, maybe not getting the 20 carries you're hoping for. If you have to start him at flex, I would say you can, but you're not happy about it.
At 29, we have Mark Ingram. They're taking on the Washington football team this week. This Ravens backfield just looks rough, like we mentioned with J.K. Dobbins. He saw double-digit carries in week 1, but other than that, hasn't seen that.
Yeah, they are playing the no-names this week, so should be a better matchup. I'm thinking that this will be the first week we see Mark Ingram get a steady load as opposed to 10 carries, 9 carries, and 7 carries. So usually they're either beating the shit out of some team or they're playing the Chiefs and they're struggling. So didn't look great, but I think this is going to be his week. And if it's not his week this week, you got to start looking elsewhere.
At 28, we have Jeff Wilson Jr., who should be benefiting from just an injury-plagued 49ers team. The 49ers backfield has just always kind of been a gold mine for, no pun intended, for running backs. I think Jeff Wilson is a solid play this week. I think this is where we kind of start to see some players with more promise.
Yeah, he's almost guaranteed a touchdown. It is actually ridiculous. He gets a touchdown every time he plays. We do have Jerick McKinnon in the rankings. We think he'll probably play. It's Tuesday night right now, so we're not positive. If he does not play, then Jeff Wilson is going to be a much better play. You could probably move him up 10 to 5 spots.
At 27, we have Joshua Kelly, who saw a bit of a decreased workload in week 3. We saw Austin Ekeler kind of emerge as the back that you want him to, and Joshua Kelly kind of take a bit of a back seat to that. They are taking on the Tampa Bay Bucks.
I think the decrease was game script. They were down a lot, and he had a pretty costly fumble that caused him to see the sideline a little bit more. But I think this week's going to be a tough matchup, but for the future, you're still liking Joshua Kelly's outlook.
At 26, we have Adrian Peterson. What do you want to say about Adrian Peterson? I feel like you like Adrian Peterson a bit more than I do.
I like that 22 carries for 75 yards. Didn't find the end zone. Had a pretty big run. I think it was the first run of the game. With Kenny Golladay back, the offense just looks more explosive, and it looks like he's solidified his role as the running back 1. I mean, he's only been on the team for 4 weeks maybe. I think he got signed a week before the season started, so I think you can just look for a upward stock here. Stocks go up.
At 25, we have Melvin Gordon taking on the New York Jets. Only had 8 carries in week 3, but it was a bit of a product of game script. They went down really early, and the team just didn't look great. I think Phillip Lindsay is possibly coming back, which is kind of impacting his value. They definitely want to give both of them a bit of work, but this New York Jets defense is hot garbage, and I think there's some value here with Melvin Gordon this week.
Well said.
At 24, we have Myles Gaskin, who really emerged as that feature back on the Dolphins with 22 carries this past week. 5 receptions as well.
Absolutely. And against the Seahawks, I think he could have a pretty productive day in the passing game. I don't necessarily see him getting more than 17, 18 carries, but I think he'll have a lot of reception opportunities. He played 75% of snaps. The thing you got to worry about is Jordan Howard poaching touchdowns.
At 23, we have Devin Singletary, who was running the ball pretty good in week 3. He had 13 carries for 71 yards, 4 receptions for 50 yards. Zach Moss didn't play, and he's unlikely to play again. But the Bills are taking on the Raiders, and offenses have just feasted against the Raiders defense, and I don't think this week will be any exception for Singletary.
Yeah, we just saw what Rex Burkhead and Sony Michel did. I expect a lot of the same. Bills offense is hot. Devin Singletary, pretty good start this week in the flex.
At 22, we have old man, young man, Todd Gurley. He's been seeing good workload. 14 carries week 1, 21 carries week 2, 14 carries week 3. Got himself a touchdown last week. I think the work is there. What you're sad about is the fact that he's not getting a lot of activity in the passing game. I'm hoping that changes against the Packers. I know you're not too high on Todd Gurley. Do you think we see Todd Gurley get any passing work, or do you think that is just a wash at this point.
I don't see him getting any passing work. I think that the Green Bay defense can give up yardage. We just saw it with Alvin Kamara. Not that Todd Gurley is Alvin Kamara. He used to be before that arthritis kicked in, but he's still getting a lot of carries, and he had a pretty big run this week. So you kind of got to worry about Brian Hill, but you're feeling better than you did after week 2.
I think this is a prove-it week for Todd Gurley, and I think he will. I like Todd Gurley this week. At 21, we have Jerick McKinnon. Took on that feature back role with all those injuries. He did go down with an injury himself in week 3, a rib injury. So we're not surprising in our notes. Got hurt in week 3 with a rib injury, not surprising.
Little cute comment there I added.
I like that. Jerick McKinnon's going to be a solid play as long as he's healthy.
Yeah, the Eagles' defense is not looking good. Jerick McKinnon did tweet post-game that he feels ready to play in week 4, so let's take him at his word and pretend like that's real and that players don't lie.
At number 20, we have Darrell Henderson Jr. coming off a very solid week 3 performance with 20 carries, 114 yards, and a touchdown, and has a very good matchup against the New York Giants.
Yeah, he looked good as the feature back. Mac Brown still has that broken finger, so he's not going to see the heavy volume that he did in week 1. And yeah, that matchup is a lot easier than the Bills.
Yeah. He's kind of he's taken on that role, and I think he's going to run away with it. I think he has good value moving forward as well, not just this week. At number 19, we have Kareem Hunt, who has just been, I don't want to say a nice surprise, but you didn't expect him to be as solid as he has been for fantasy.
I had him last year, and he was pretty damn good. So I kind of saw it coming, but I
guess it was more. I guess yeah. We had the sample size from last year. It was just more. I should say I was a bit suspect on if that's how he would continue to be used.
Yeah, with Kevin Stefanski really wanting to run the ball, I think that Kareem Hunt is a starter every single week, especially since they love to line him up as a wide receiver. They line him up in the slot. They put him in the backfield with Nick Chubb sometimes. So his outlook is very good.
At number 18, we have Jonathon Taylor. Week 3 had 13 carries for 59 yards and a touchdown. They do have a bit of a tougher matchup this week against the Chicago Bears.
Didn't do as great as he did in week 2, but they were just beating the shit out of the Jets. They're really messing the Jets up. So you should see more volume this week. I could definitely see this being a high-scoring game.
At 17, we have Joe Mixon. He's been getting solid workload, 19 carries in week 1, 16 carries in week 2, 17 carries in week 3, but he just isn't getting it done. 69 yards, 49 yards, 46 yards. I mean, you drafted him probably at the back end of the first round, and he's just not producing like you want him to, and I don't see him producing at that output as a first-round draft pick output, but he does have a chance to really bounce back here against the Jacksonville Jags, and I think if this is a week he finds the end zone, this will be the one.
Yeah, it's tough. The Jags is going to be the best chance he has to redeem his season. Do you start to panic if he doesn't perform well again?
Absolutely. At this point, I would already have been trying to move Joe Mixon if he was on my team, but I honestly avoided Joe Mixon because of how he played last year. He was nowhere on my draft list, but I would definitely be panicking depending on how he plays against this Jacksonville team. What about you?
Yeah, if he's on my team, I am very upset, and I can't trust him either. If he doesn't have a good game this week, when will he have a good game?
Number 16, we have David Johnson taking on the Minnesota Vikings. I know David Johnson is on your team. Are you excited about this next matchup?
This is the first time I have actually been excited for David Johnson. This is going to be probably the first game he sees an adequate amount of carries. They played the Chiefs week 1, the Ravens week 2, and they just went up against a tough Steelers defense that they ended up having to throw the ball a bunch against. So if they can find consistency in this run game and stick to it, David Johnson should have a big week. Derrick Henry just had a pretty solid performance against the Vikings, so it's proven that you can move the ball against them.
At number 15, we have David Montgomery. coming off a week 3 performance where he had 14 carries for 45 yards, 2 receptions for 9 yards. So it wasn't anything stellar, but he looks promising. The Colts defense has looked pretty decent, but they've had weak matchups.
They're technically the number one defense, but that's all BS.
Yeah.
That's matchup dependent. If they're weak, if they're ranked 1 by the end of the year, I'll eat my words, but I find that hard to believe that that's going to continue.
I think we'll see. I think that the Bears offense is pretty decent, and I think David Montgomery, it should be interesting to see if he kind of takes on more of a role in the passing game with Tariq Cohen being injured.
Yeah, I think he tore his ACL or something. He had a pretty bad injury. I think with Nick Foles at the helm, you're going to see a lot more opportunity just because they're going to have the ball more. So that means more time of possessions, more opportunity for plays. And Nick Foles likes to take the big play. So you could see some more 1-yard touchdowns than you're used to.
At number 14, we have Mike Davis filling in for the injured Christian McCaffrey and doing a damn good job of it in week 3 with 13 carries for 46 yards, 8 receptions for 45 yards and a touchdown.
Yeah, he's a must play if Christian McCaffrey's out. This week against the Cardinals, I see them definitely looking to him again. I don't know if he'll have the 13 carries for 46 yards. He should have a little more carries than that, but I still see him being heavily involved in this passing offense.
I think, too, Mike Davis, he's a good player. He gave Chris Carson a run for his money for the starting job when he was on Seattle.
Yeah, he did.
So, I mean, Mike Davis, he's not a bad player. I think, feel really good about starting Mike Davis, especially with the way they're using him. I mean, 8 receptions, I don't think that's going to stop at all, especially against the Arizona Cardinals team that's going to be very high-powered on offense. This Panthers team's going to be playing from behind. At number 13, we have Miles Sanders coming off of 18 carries for 95 yards, 4 receptions and 12 yards. They're taking on the banged-up 49ers this week. Miles Sanders looking like a true workhorse back on that Eagles team.
Yeah, you're just worried about the Carson Wentz play. It's been rough, but that could just mean more carries for Miles Sanders. Just try to get the offense going at least, maybe get the play-action game going. It's tough, though. He gets all the volume, but he's on a terrible offense. So you're kind of in a catch-22 because he does get the production, but the offense itself, it's no Chiefs.
At number 12, we have Kenyan Drake. Week 3 had 18 carries for 73 yards, had a reception as well, and has a very desirable matchup against a pretty rough-looking Carolina Panthers defense.
Yeah, he's getting carries every week, 16, 20, 18, slightly involved in the passing offense. The thing you're getting screwed on is Kyler Murray is going on a little 15-yard scamper every time for a touchdown.
He runs so pretty, though.
Oh, it's amazing.
Yeah,
but if you're a Kenyan Drake owner, you're kind of in the Joe Mixon boat. Maybe not as bad as Joe Mixon because the offense is better, but I think you need to see a touchdown to save your team because you're probably not doing so hot because you used a high draft pick on Kenyan Drake. I wouldn't say it's a waste yet, though. He's definitely getting the volume, so he's a safe play, but you expected more.
I fall in the boat that it's only a matter of time for the levee to break, and I think this is the week it's going to happen, and if not, you're going to be concerned. But I think hold hope for now. At number 11 is James Conner, who had a really great game in week 3 with 18 carries, 109 yards, and a touchdown. Got involved in the passing game a bit with 4 receptions for 40 yards as well.
Yeah, had a pretty good game in week 2 as well. Should be playing the Titans. We don't know what's going on with that. COVID decided to fuck the NFL season once again. 8 people in the Titans organization.
Damn. Was it really 8 people?
Yeah, 3 players, 5 people on the personnel staff.
Shit.
And the 3 players were confirmed positive tests. So you're just kind of hoping that you're hoping to see this game happen. It could be pushed to Tuesday. It could just be played on Saturday, or it could be moved to another bye week. So you might have a bye week with James Conner this week. And if you do, hopefully you don't have to start one of these bottom running backs.
Cracking into the top 10 At the 10 spot, we have James Robinson, one of the probably just strike gold players of the 2020 season so far. You probably picked him up off the waivers, and you found yourself a potential RB1, if not a very solid RB2.
Yeah, he's dominating the backfield.
Had a monster game week 3, 2 touchdowns. He got involved in the passing game too. There's no competition in that backfield.
I think he'll have an even better game against the Bengals this week with DJ Shark back, because that's a better looking offense with him out on the field. Gives James Robinson more opportunity to move the ball, because now they have somebody that they can get third down completions on. They can move the sticks a little more. I would expect time of possession to go up compared to Thursday night's game against the Dolphins.
At number 9, we have Clyde Edwards-Helaire, coming off a decent game in week 3 with 20 carries, 64 yards, 5 receptions for 70 yards. They're taking on the Patriots. He looks good. I mean, he looks like a solid player.
Yeah, the Patriots can definitely stop the run if that's what they deem that they want to do, but who knows what they'll shut down this week. Could be Travis Kelce, could be Tyreek Hill. Hopefully it's not Clyde Edwards-Helaire. But if they do, you can still expect him to be very prominent in the receiving game.
At number 8, we have Josh Jacobs. Kind of disappointed you in week 3 against the Patriots, but had 16 carries for 71 yards, 3 receptions for 12 yards. The Patriots just know how to take out playmakers, and the Raiders aren't necessarily an elite team, so they were kind of suffering from being able to be picked on by Bill Belichick, and Josh Jacobs was the victim there.
Yeah, they got the Bills this week. How are you feeling about your Raiders?
I know the Bills are kind of a tough matchup, but Josh Jacobs, I think, he's going to get the work. He's going to get the carries. They might involve him in the passing game a bit. I think the Raiders are 100% going to be playing from behind this game. So, I mean, you might see a downtick in carries for Josh Jacobs, but they don't have a heavy amount of offensive weapons except for Josh Jacobs and Darren Waller. And week in and week out, they're going to be used. John Gruden wants to run the ball. Josh Jacobs is a really good running back, and despite tough matchups, he's played very well minus week 3, but playing with confidence. Don't expect him to kind of shit the bed like he did against the Patriots. At number 7, we have Derrick Henry, an absolute monster of a man, just getting carries all day long.
Good Lord, just they feed him. It's ridiculous.
They are taking on the Pittsburgh Steelers.
Potentially.
I mean, does this matchup cause any concern for Derrick Henry for you?
They do have probably one of the best, if not the best, run defense in the league. I'm not too worried because the Titans can move the ball, and 31, 25, 26 carries in those first 3 weeks, that's amazing. So he's going to get the opportunity. He might scalp a touchdown. I can't reason with being worried when I'm seeing that kind of volume week in and week out.
Exactly. Yeah, I have nothing negative to say there on that. At number 6, we have Nick Chubb coming off of 19 carries in week 3 for 108 yards and 2 touchdowns. Had a monster game. They're taking on the Cowboys this week. The Browns want to run first. Does the Cowboys matchup concern you at all with Nick Chubb? Do you think that they're going to be playing from behind and involve Kareem Hunt more?
I'm not too worried about it because Kevin Stefanski has proven that this is the offense he wants to run. Week 1 looked a little rough, but 22 carries for 124 yards and 2 touchdowns in week 2. So back-to-back 100-yard, 2-touchdown games. Now, I don't know if you can expect the 2 touchdowns, but I think you can pretty much safely guarantee yourself 1. And I think that he's an elite running back, and I don't think the Cowboys can stop him.
At number 5, we have Austin Ekeler, the best wide receiver on the Los Angeles Chargers. I know you're sitting pretty with Austin Ekeler at the moment. How do you feel about a tough matchup against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers?
It seems rough, and he might not get the ground rushing yardage that he has in the first 2 weeks, but I think it'll be similar to week 3. Justin Herbert's still playing. The Bucs are probably going to be up. The defense is tough, but that just means it's going to be a lot of check downs, a lot of short yardage plays. Hopefully he'll get another touchdown. And I think you can expect Austin Ekeler, as long as Justin Herbert's there, to really make some moves.
You're definitely feeling good seeing all those receptions with Austin Ekeler, 11 receptions in week 3. That's why you put him on your team in a PPR league is for those reception points and that baseline that he's going to give you. And with Justin Herbert there, he definitely looks to be looking his way. At number 4, we have Ezekiel Elliott. I mean, he's just one of the best running backs in football. They're taking on the Cleveland Browns. I think this really just kind of comes down to what the pacing of the game is going to be, who kind of dominates the pace. Will it be the Cowboys or will it be the Browns? Who do you think will end up being the domineer of the pacing in this game?
I think it's going to be a good Ezekiel Elliott and a good Nick Chubb game. I think Ezekiel Elliott will bounce back from his week 3 performance where they were just in a complete shootout with the Seahawks. And I think he'll probably have another touchdown. Some good work in the passing game. And overall, I'm liking Ezekiel Elliott.
You know, he can get it done on the ground. He can get it done in the air, too. He's had 6 receptions the past 2 weeks, and he got over 20 carries in weeks 1 and 2. So, I mean, if you have Ezekiel Elliott, you're obviously playing him. At number 3, we have Dalvin Cook, who finally emerged. I don't want to say finally emerged, but he got over 20 carries and had yet to do that prior to week 3. And he fully kind of took on that role that you drafted him to take on.
I think you could safely say emerged once again. 181 yards. That's more combined in one game than the first 2 weeks.
Yeah.
That's crazy. Next matchup is the Texans, though. That does worry me a little bit. I think the Texans' defense is better than it seems, but I still think he's going to have a monster game. The offense is clicking finally.
At number 2 this week, we have Aaron Jones. He's been dominating football. The Packers have just been dominating football. Not necessarily the hardest matchups per se, but, I mean, when it comes to fantasy, that's what you want. 16 carries week 3 for 69 yards, nice, and a touchdown. 2 receptions for 17 yards. They're taking on the Falcons. This is going to be a high-scoring game. Aaron Jones is going to see a good amount of usage.
I think they're just going to be blowing the Falcons out, so they're going to be forced to run. So I think he'll see an uptick in carries than what he's used to. So I think he's another stud that you're going to be happy to play against the Falcons.
Just a trash defense, too. So they're going to be giving their playmakers the ball, and Aaron Jones is 100% a playmaker. At number 1, is it any surprise? Alvin Kamara just been dominating. The Saints' number 1 wide receiver in week 3, 13 receptions, 139 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Had one of the best runs I have ever seen.
It was amazing.
It was one of the most beautiful runs I've ever seen.
The fact that center trucked his ass 50 yards down the field to make a block was equally as impressive.
It really was.
He might be the best wide receiver in football.
I can't argue with that. I mean, Michael Thomas should be back, so I wouldn't expect that many receptions again, but they want to use him in the passing game. He's talented with the ball in his hands. They're going to get the playmakers their balls. Michael Thomas is going to see action. You can guarantee Alvin Kamara is going to be getting action too.
Yeah, and I think this will be a pretty high-scoring game. I think the Lions' offense is finally clicking. I think the Saints' offense is finally going to start clicking, so I expect a lot of big points out of this.
Thanks for checking out this video. If you have any issue with where we put any of these players or who we put on this list, go ahead and let us know in the comments. We can handle the heat, and we will not get out of the kitchen.
Bully us if you'd like. We're ready.
We can handle it. We're tough boys, but we are so desperate for approval. Hence the YouTube channel.
Yeah.